Hey, it's Shanice Miller, the debt-free college grad, and I just want to congratulate you for completing the first step. Now you know exactly where the scholarships are that are specifically for you, and you should go out and have gotten at least 3 of those scholarship applications. Now go ahead, go out and get those. That's really important in the scholarship process. Without the applications, then you won't get anywhere. Now, before we get into the scholarship essay, I just wanted to go over some quick tips for scholarships. These are going to be simple scholarship dues that you need to keep in mind before you even fill out the essay or complete the scholarship application. Now, some of these quick tips might seem really self-explanatory, but if you forget them, then you're really going to be kicking yourself in the butt wishing that you remembered them. So I really want to go over everything. And a lot of these tips are things that you didn't even think about. So you really want to pay close attention and listen to this all the way through. I know you might want to feel like you can just jump right into the essay portion and talk about the essays and how to craft them, but these application dues are really going to be very important for you to complete your scholarship application and to really make it stand out and shine before you even do anything. So let's just jump right in to the quick tips for scholarships. So the first due that I have for you is to check the eligibility criteria. Now before you write an essay or even have the pen hit the paper, you must check the eligibility requirements. You want to make sure that you qualify because there is no point in filling out the entire essay and submitting the application if you don't meet the minimum requirements that are listed on the application. Now sometimes these requirements might ask you to be a member of a certain organization. So if you're not a member, don't even apply. Or maybe it might say that you need a 3.0 GPA. If you have a 2.5, don't apply. Maybe you can call the scholarship application their committee, but I just would apply if I don't meet that criteria. That's going to be the first thing that the scholarship judges will actually go down to make sure and check the application for when they are even looking. So before they get to your essay, before they see how great of a person that you are, they're going to be checking this eligibility criteria to make sure that you meet it or you exceed it. So definitely check the eligibility criteria. Make sure that you qualify before you fill out the scholarship application. This is going to save you a lot of time. So really make sure that you qualify. All right, now next, do check the deadline. Oh my gosh, I can't tell you this so much. You need to really make sure that the deadline hasn't passed for the scholarship. Now, missing the deadline is going to be the easiest way to not have your scholarship application considered or even looked at. So if you want to just do extra work for no reason, go ahead and submit that scholarship application after the deadline. But I'm going to just tell you right now, judges will not make an exception for you no matter how much you plead or how many times you call. That application will just be thrown in the trash no matter how much time and effort you put into it. You can be the best candidate for that scholarship application, but if you don't meet that deadline, then they won't even know. They'll just trash it or they won't even see it. So really check that deadline. I know there was one scholarship I thought I was perfect for, but the deadline had just passed. And what I did was I actually held on to that scholarship. So the next year when I looked at the website, I saw when the scholarship will open up and I applied immediately so that I wouldn't miss that deadline again. Now you always want to beat the deadline. You don't want to just meaning that you want to make it your duty to have the scholarship submitted at least 2 weeks before the deadline. That's how you're going to beat the deadline. Personally, I like to submit it before then, as early as possible. I always think about scholarships and anything with free money as a first come first served basis, or they're giving it to you on a rolling basis. So you want to be one of those first candidates that really shine and stand out from the rest of the crowd, that you got it in early, you're really prompt, and that you know how to follow directions. And a lot of times, if you make it in at least 2 weeks before the deadline, you never know what can happen. That's still a nice little area that you can have 2 weeks before the deadline to make sure you get that application in. But definitely the earlier the better. I just loved submitting my applications in really early, like right after they opened up the application process. Now, the next thing you want to do is you want to conduct research on the scholarship organization. Now, before you start to fill out the scholarship application, you should just do your homework. Do some research on the scholarship organization that you're applying to. And by doing some research, it's really quick, really simple. All you have to do is just go to their website. And you want to go specifically to their mission and their About Us pages to just get a sense of what their purpose is and what they find value in or what they find really important. Now, these things are really going to help you to kind of see exactly what the scholarship committee is looking for in that scholarship application. So if you know that their mission is to help mankind and better themselves, then you really want to highlight and focus on discussing the accomplishments and strengths that align with that particular sponsor's cause and mission. And you want to do that the most for that particular application. So I know I had an application where the person really was an advocate for learning, and she really just really wanted to see students succeed. So a lot of times my whole application was going around how I was very passionate about succeeding in school and the things that I did so that I could ensure that I would succeed in school. So just little things like that. If someone's mission is to really help people, then maybe you might focus your application on the volunteer experience that you did to help others as well. So really, if you go into their website, do some research on the scholarship organization, see specifically what their mission is, what their About Us pages are, to really see what they value the most, what they find most important, so that you can really touch on those key areas in your application. And that's going to really resonate with them. This is going to help you be seen as a great candidate for the scholarship. Now you should do follow all directions. You want to make sure that you carefully read over all the directions and instructions. It's not that many. Usually the directions are only a couple of one page, maybe 2 pages at the most, but you really want to follow all directions because before the scholarship committee even reviews your application package, before they read your essay, before they see your any of your particular volunteer experience, work skills, extracurricular activities, they're checking to make sure that you read all the directions, that you paid attention to the details, and that you followed those directions and you followed the rules that were given. If you don't do these things, you don't read the directions, you don't pay attention to the details, and you don't follow the rules and directions that were given, they will disqualify you. An example of this is if the application tells you to use a black pen to fill out the application or to type it up online, use the black pen. Don't use a purple pen or a blue pen. These are small, silly mistakes that can easily get your scholarship application thrown out. When a judge sees you as not obeying the rules, then they see you as either careless or disobedient, and you don't want to be seen as either. You want to be seen as a person that will succeed in school and in life because they can follow the directions. They can do the small requests that people ask them to do. And also, you only want to include materials that the application requests. So if your application asks you to write an essay, then you want to include an essay, and maybe you're a singer, so you also want to kind of do a snippet of that. You can save that extra material for maybe the interview if they have one. But don't give them a whole lot of information, a whole lot of extra materials that they didn't ask for. Yes, it's nice to see all of your accomplishments and all of your certificates and awards, but they didn't ask for that. It's really important that you follow all of the directions on these applications because that's exactly what they're going to be checking for. Make sure that you read all directions and don't just read them once, read them 2 times, read them 3 times. Make sure that you truly understand what the directions are asking you. Pay attention to the details in the directions. Something as small as using a black pen instead of a blue pen could really be the determining factor if you're going to be awarded the award or not. So you really want to pay attention to those little details and definitely follow the rules and the directions that are given. These are the things that they're really going to be looking for just as a preliminary kind of how they weed out certain people. So the first thing they're going around making sure you're following the directions and that you're eligible for. Then they're going to start looking into the application. They're saying, oh, okay, this person passed the first round of tests. They can follow directions, they can read, and they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. So now let's dive a little bit deeper, look into how they crafted their essay, what they have to say about themselves. Okay, so next up, you do want to make copies of the application. So sometimes you can get an application directly off the scholarship website, but there were other times where you might have to request an application, or you might only have a hard copy of that scholarship application from someplace that you picked it up. So just think about what happens if you only have one copy, and what happens if you mess up. Maybe you spilt something on it, you were eating, or you just had it in a pile of just a lot of stuff just sitting on a counter and you accidentally spilt something on it. Or maybe you were going through it and you ended up going back to proofread your application. You saw you had a lot of mistakes or spelling errors. So if you can only obtain that one scholarship application, you really want to make copies of it beforehand. You don't want to go back to the scholarship committee asking them to send you another one. One, it looks irresponsible on your part, and two, sometimes it takes a while for them to actually send you another scholarship application. What happens if you're trying to come against the deadline? If you're waiting for them to send you another scholarship application, they're trying to mail it off in the mail, sometimes that can take 5 days, a week, maybe even longer than that to get to you. And then you're all anxious. So just the easiest thing to do to make sure that you can always have the nicest and neatest copies of your application is just make copies of the application beforehand. Make a couple of copies. If you just want to make one extra copy at a time, that's fine as well. As long as you have your one copy, your main copy, and then you also have like an extra practice copy as well. You just want to have that just to make sure that you're going to give them the best copy and the best application ever. So you always want to submit the nicest and neatest application to the scholarship judges that's free from any crossed out words, food stains, or whiteout mistakes. So you just want to make copies just in case. It's always better safe than sorry. Now you do want to complete the entire application. This is another big way that you can get disqualified, and that's if you submit an incomplete application. And the incomplete application can mean if they required you to submit a recommendation letter and you don't submit any recommendation letters from any teachers or any professors, you will get immediately disqualified. Or if they ask you to write an essay, you don't write the essay, you will get immediately disqualified. Or if they ask you for some transcripts and you don't include that in your package, you will get disqualified. So if you want to complete it, do it well, and do it to its entirety. Just doing it just halfway complete is going to get you disqualified, so you might as well not do it at all. Now you also, when completing the entire application, you don't want to leave any lines blank. Now, if you think that there's a question that doesn't necessarily apply to you, you should use that same space to give a short sentence on why it doesn't apply to you instead of just marking down NA, which is not applicable, or putting like a X through it or a cross mark. They just want to understand, and just take that time to really try to express yourself, let the judges understand you better and see where you're coming from. So it's always better to just put something rather than nothing. You don't want to be seen as putting a blank down or not answering a question when it didn't apply to you, because then the judges can look at that and say, oh, they didn't fill out the or complete the entire application, so she or he is disqualified. Now, if there is room to elaborate on any questions, you should do so, even if the question asks you to just list it. So we're going to discuss this a little bit more in the next session, but definitely if they have extra lines and they're asking you to list like your extracurricular activities, write like a little short sentence. Doesn't have to be really long. You don't have to go into a lot of elaboration, but just do a quick short sentence to just explain it a little bit more so that they can understand exactly what you did and where you're coming from. And once again, just make sure you include all of the materials that they request. This will be a part of completing the entire application. If an application is incomplete, then you will be disqualified. Now you do want to submit a neat application. If you can, type your application. This will ensure that the judges can read what you write. Some people, if you're rushing, maybe you don't have the neatest handwriting, if they can't read what you write, then you're not going to be able to get the points anyway. They're not going to be able to see what you write, no matter how good of a candidate or how good of a story you have. So if you don't have the best penmanship, think about typing your essay, typing your application, or maybe asking someone who has better penmanship to write it over for you. And if you can't type your application, you want to use black ink and write very neatly so that the judges can read it. Once again, if they can't read what's on your application, or if your application looks sloppy, you will not be seen as a good candidate for this scholarship fund. And also, in order to keep the application neat, you don't want to fold or squeeze the application into a little envelope, one of those regular sized envelopes that we normally get. You want a special manila folder that you're going to put these scholarship applications in so that you don't bend them or fold them. These manila folders are the big 8.5 by 11-inch envelopes that fit the whole size of like a sheet of printer paper or a sheet of your notebook paper. And you can just put your application in there flat without having to bend it or anything like that. So you do want to keep the application organized. You really want to make sure that all of your pages are in order. Now the judges aren't going to do any extra work to try to figure out which page goes first, which goes second, and which goes last. So if your pages are out of order, it's just going to confuse them and they're going to just toss that one to the side. You don't want to give the judges any reason to toss your application to the side. You want your application to go into the award-winning pile and not the trash pile. So always check the directions, but you also might want to include your name and a page number on each page just in case your application does get separated through the review process. By keeping your name on each page, they don't have any questions about who this application belongs to. They know it belongs to you, and the page numbers will help them get it back into order neatly. And once again, you want to check the directions also to see if you should staple the pages of the application or you should paperclip them. Now, a lot of the applications that I submitted and that I've helped people submit require that the pages be paper clipped and not stapled. But once again, go back, check those directions, see if they ask you to do one versus the other. And this goes back to following simple directions. So if you can't follow the direction of paper clipping your pages together versus stapling your pages together, if it tells you to paperclip them, just paperclip them. It's the small details that they're really looking for to make sure that you're going to actually follow them and that you're going to go through with it. So just do it. Follow the directions. Do what it asks you to do. Now do proofread the application package. I cannot stress this part enough. There are a lot of people who just turn in whatever. It doesn't really make sense. But this is what the judges are looking for. They're looking for a nice, neat, clean application that they can just read and it makes sense. So after you're finished filling out the entire application package, you want to really proofread it. You want to check for any spelling errors. This is what they're looking for. They're looking for spelling errors. They're looking for any grammar errors. These things they're going to look at to kind of disqualify you, or not necessarily disqualify you, but to weed out the best people for the scholarship award. If you have spelling errors or grammar errors, then they're going to say maybe this person isn't the best person for this scholarship award. Especially when it gets really close and they're having to figure out who to award it, and it's you and maybe 3 other people or 5 other people that are top candidates. They're really going to go back in and see if you made any mistakes or if you were careless on certain areas. So you don't want to give them that reason to not award you the scholarship award. And don't just proofread it yourself. Have someone else check it over for you, like a teacher, a parent, or even a scholarship coach like myself. Now I know even when I'm doing some of my work, I can read stuff, and since I know what I meant to put in, I'll automatically insert a certain word in there just because I know I meant to put it in there, even though it's not really on the sheet of paper. But when you have somebody else check it for you, then they have a new pair of eyes. They're going to see and catch some of the errors that maybe you didn't catch because you know exactly how you meant to write it. And also, I find that reading the whole application package out loud will really help as well. When you read essays or papers or application packages out loud, then that really helps you to see where you're having run on sentences, if you're stumbling across any words, or if any sentences make sense or if they're a little bit confusing, because you're going to catch that when you're reading it out loud. So, really make sure all of your sentences make sense and they're easy to understand. So, do proofread the application package. And do ask for help. Once again, scholarship coaches, they're here to help you. Your parents, they're here to help you. Even sometimes your friends can be there to help you. You know which friends will be good helpers for your scholarship package and they'll go over it. And you know which friends might not be so good of a helper. So ask the friends that might be good helpers, that are good in English or good in one of the areas that you aren't so good at. Ask for help. Everyone needs help with something, and scholarship applying is no different. And if you don't understand a question or if you're unclear on a section in the application, you want to ask for clarification. Definitely ask the scholarship committee or ask your parents, ask a scholarship coach, ask anyone around you. If you don't feel comfortable asking for clarification, present it to them as you want a second opinion to make sure that you understand what's being asked. Some people have a problem with asking for help. It's nothing wrong with asking for help for clarity. So maybe you don't want to say that you don't understand it. Just say you want a second opinion to make sure that you're on the same page. Do make a copy before you mail it. Now, this is very important. This is really going to be a big time saver when it comes to you submitting other applications. So before you put your application in the mail, make a copy of the completed application package. Now, this is for two reasons. First reason is just in case the scholarship application gets lost, maybe it might get lost in the mail, maybe it just gets lost getting there to its destination, maybe you lost it before you even got to mail it. If it gets lost, you won't be panicking and you won't have to worry about doing the entire scholarship application again, because you'll have a backup copy that you can quickly send without having to do it again. You'll just have that backup copy, so it'll be a lot of stress and a lot of anxiousness off of your shoulders. So it just makes it a lot easier. And then the second reason that you want to make a copy before you mail it is because scholarship applications can repeat themselves or be very similar. So really, this is one of my big time saving tips. This is how you can maximize your time by reusing answers and essay questions that you use from one application to another. But really, make sure that the answers are the same or are similar to the questions that are being asked. If the questions are the same, then you can use the same answers. But if the questions are different, please don't use the same answers. And all you have to do is just copy the answers from one application to another. Now, like I said, a lot of times applications do repeat themselves. So after you do about, sometimes if you do one, you'll end up with another one that's very similar to the first one you did. Or maybe sometimes after you do 3 different scholarship applications, then you'll start to see a lot of the questions repeat themselves, so you'll have to do minimum work. If you have a copy of that application that you did the first time, then you can go ahead and just copy all those answers and sometimes even enhance them. A lot of times when we're doing stuff over, then we have time to kind of check it, proofread it, and add and edit it to make it sound better. And sometimes it was stuff that we didn't think about before, but we can think about now that we've already done it the first go around. So definitely make a copy before you mail it. It's going to help you in case your scholarship gets lost. It's going to help you in case you spill something on it last minute. And it's going to help you with future scholarship applications so that you don't have to keep writing essays over and over again. You don't have to write 10 different essays for scholarship applications. You can use the same 1 to 3 essays and keep recycling them, editing them to update them to make them look and match what the organization that you're applying for is asking. But you can still use a lot of the same content. Once again, we're going to go over this a little bit more in the next session. So next up, do check the mailing address. Before you put your application in the mail, you want to check that address that you're sending it to. You want to make sure that you have the correct address and that it's written correctly on the envelope. The worst thing is for you to have this whole scholarship application together and then you put it in the mail and it goes to the wrong address. Then the scholarship committee never got it. You have a perfect scholarship application that they never got because you didn't do something as small as checking the mailing address. You also want to make sure that you mail the correct scholarship application package to the correct committee. Now, sometimes if you're doing a lot of different things, you're trying to just throw them in a package, you want to make sure that the right application goes in with the right mailing address. You don't want to confuse the scholarship committees or be disqualified because you submitted the wrong one to the wrong mailing address. And also, make sure you have enough postage for the envelope. And you also want to track the package to make sure it doesn't get lost in the mail. Now, these are all very simple things, but they are very easy to overlook. So just make sure that you're checking this out and that you have your checklist when you're going to mail off these letters. Make sure that you're putting in the right mailing address, that you have the right amount of postage on there, you're putting the right application in with the right mailing address, and that you want to track the package. You want to make sure it doesn't get lost in the mail. So check the mailing address and do follow up. You really want to check in with the scholarship organization. This is one of my best tips and it's really helped a lot of people, just kind of push them over that edge. You want to check in with the scholarship organization 1 week after mailing your scholarship package to make sure they received it. And you want to do this because you want to make sure they received your application and you want to make sure that you stay on their mind so that they think of you first when making the decision for the scholarship award. And you follow up by just calling. If they have a number or anything like that, call during their business hours. And because calling people is very personable. I know it's easier to send an email nowadays, but if you make that phone call, then that's going to give you that extra little bump. It's a lot of people bump up with the scholarship application. They're going to look at you as a better candidate who's really serious and wants this application. Now, when you're going and you're finding people that are applying to the same application, you'll see not a lot of people are doing this. But this is one easy, quick tip that you can really do that's really going to make you, it's going to set you apart from the rest of the candidates because not everyone's doing this. So follow up, call that organization a week after you mail your scholarship package. Make sure they receive it. Now, just a sample script, a lot of people were asking me, so what do I say when I follow up? So all you have to really do is just say hello, listen for the person's name who answered the phone. Hello, person's name who answered the phone. Say their actual name. This is, and then say your name. And I'm applying for, talk about the name of the scholarship. And I just wanted to make sure that my application made it to the correct person. Now, the person will say yes, they might put you on hold, they might look at your application and ask you a few questions, so be prepared to respond confidently, and be pleasant over the phone. You want to come off as a really nice, genuine person because they can tell if you're being nasty over the phone, then you just lost your chances. You might as well have not called. But if you're nice, you're sweet, you're pleasant, you're polite, then they're going to see you, they're going to hear your voice. Your application is now going to be connected to a voice and a name. So that's already going to put you above the bunch. And before you get off the phone, you can also ask, would you mind if I ask one more question? When will your scholarship committee make a final decision on who they will award the scholarship? And they might tell you a date, they might say they're not sure, they might say that all of the scholarship winners will be announced by a certain time. Feel free to jot that date down so then you have in mind, when to expect that you will hear back. Then you just end the call saying, thank you so much for all of your help. Say their name again. It's very personable. You want to make sure that that person on the phone knows that you listened, you pay attention, you're nice, you're courteous, you're pleasant. And then you can end it with, have a great day. So the person gets off the phone, they hear you, they see your name, they know that you're a good person. Now you do also want to send a thank you note. Now I know some people might be saying, oh, this is a lot of work, it's overkill. It's really not that much work. And if you just do these two little things, you make that follow-up call, you send a thank you note, that's going to give you extra points, extra bonus points because other people aren't doing those things. So really the thank you note, that can be the difference between you winning $2,500, $5,000, or you not getting the scholarship award at all, just because you sent the thank you note and you had it in their minds. Now, I remember this applied to even when I was applying to my college admissions. I had just followed up with the admissions person at my school before just to make sure that I was taking the right courses that would transfer over. And I was just kind of following up with her kind of constantly and being polite. This was via email, not phone call, but just it was easier for her that way. So by the time that it came for me to submit my application to try and enroll into my program, then she had already heard my name. She'd already seen me. She knew I was interested in the program for years and I was pre planning it. So I was more likely to actually get into the program. I talked to somebody else who was in the program. They had been rejected, I want to say one or two times before they actually got admitted. And I asked her why did she think that she got rejected, and she said because I just applied blindly. I didn't say anything to anyone the first go round, but they saw that I kept submitting and I when I went back to apply again, I made sure that I contacted her. I contacted the admission specialist. I made sure that I talked to them, told them what my particular circumstance or situation was, and I was really interested in the program. So when you are doing these things where you're making going that extra mile, people see that and they really remember you for doing those things. So do send a thank you note. You want to send a thank you note 2 weeks after the deadline for submitting the scholarship application has passed. Once again, it's always the little things and thoughtful details in life that count the most. Just send that thank you note thanking the organization for taking the time to review your application and for considering you for the scholarship award. You also want to add something personal about their organization. So you want to thank them for the impact and the work that they do. Once again, go back to the mission page, the About Us page, for ideas on what to write. You really want to make a good impression and keep your name in their minds. Do keep track of deadlines and the follow-up notes and calls. So you do want to mark deadlines and times that you want to send out the scholarship package. You want to make sure you mark down the times and deadlines to make the follow-up calls and to send the thank you notes so that you don't forget. Even someone with the best memory in the world can still forget. So just do yourself a favor and write it down. It's very easy to just forget something and then before you know it, you didn't do it. And I like to use Google Calendar. It connects directly with my phone and you can get an alert so that you don't forget. Or if you have an agenda book, some people like writing it down, having something to write on the pen and paper, or a calendar, you can mark it on there as well. Just make sure that you're checking it frequently so that you don't miss the deadlines and that you're actually following up on the times that you're supposed to. Do that call a week after you submit your application and do the thank you notes 2 weeks after the deadline for the submission of the scholarships are up. Now, this will ensure that you remember to make those everlasting impressions. Once again, it's really about the small details making you going above and beyond. Do clean up your social media accounts. I know nowadays a lot of people are using social media, and now employers, admission specialists at colleges, even scholarship judges might look you up on Google, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, YouTube, any of those social media accounts to make sure that you're exactly who you say you are. If they see any profanity, excessive skin, anything that doesn't look professional in any of your online profiles, you can get disqualified. So you want to clean up your social media accounts before you submit these applications, before you even enroll to try and gain admission to a college, and before you go on these job interviews. Really just be mindful about what you put on the internet because it can really impact your life. There are people who got fired from jobs because of things that they put on social media. So don't take it lightly. People are really searching for you and they're searching for candidates now on social media just to make sure that they are who they say they are. Also, you want to make sure you have a professional voicemail box that's set up in case they call you, and you also want to have a regular ringtone. Sometimes some people have those ringbacks, so just make sure that it's just plain professional. You want to be as professional as possible. Make sure that you have that voicemail box that's set up in case that they call. If you don't have a voicemail box that's set up, if say that it says it's full or anything like that, then you will never be able to get the call. You won't know that they called you if you missed their call or anything like that because they can't leave the voicemail for you to know. What if they're announcing that you're the scholarship winner and your voicemail box is full? Since they can't get in contact with you, they might just go ahead and give it to the next runner up. So really, really think about those things. Or if they call you and your ringtone is something crazy that goes back to your social media accounts showing profanity or excessive skin, they might hang up the phone right then and there and decide that maybe you're not such a good candidate at all. So you really want to be as professional as possible so that you can get awarded these scholarships. And do continue to apply for more scholarships. After you do one scholarship application, do another and another and another and another. Scholarships aren't just a one and done type of deal. So you want to keep applying for more and more scholarships. You never want to have all your eggs in one basket. You want a lot of scholarships that's going to come through for you so that you don't have to worry about how you're going to come up with any money for school. Now, you've spent a lot of time crafting this amazing application package, and you want to make sure that you really get the most out of it. And remember, we talked about this before, a lot of scholarship applications have the same or similar questions. So once you do, say, about 1 to 3 applications, the rest will be a lot easier to complete, and they'll just be a repeat of the questions that you've already answered and the essays that you've already answered. So apply for more scholarships. It'll be the easiest thing for you to do. Keep searching and applying for scholarships until it's your senior year in college. Yes, you can keep searching and applying for scholarships throughout your junior year, your sophomore year in college. You can still apply for scholarships throughout college. Scholarships don't just stop or dry up after high school. So it's not too late to keep applying. You want to keep making sure that you have that constant income coming in from the scholarships and that you have enough money to cover all of your tuition and fees. Now, the more scholarships that you apply for, the better your chance of graduating college debt free with money in the bank. And then also, along with continuing to apply for more scholarships, follow the criteria necessary to renew your scholarships. Oh my gosh, this is so important. Renewing scholarships is so much easier than applying for more scholarships. Because when you renew a scholarship, they already know you. They know that you can follow directions and you are already deemed a good candidate of their scholarship fund. So it will be really easy for them to just renew your scholarship as long as you follow the directions and the criteria they ask you to do to renew that scholarship. So definitely look into what you need to do to renew that scholarship. Sometimes if they tell you that it's non-renewable, seek and ask that scholarship organization what other scholarships they have. They might have scholarships for colleges, and you might have to reply, but that's kind of similar to renewing the scholarship because the scholarship organization already knows you. Since they already know you, they will already gain your trust. You already have their trust, and it will be a lot easier and for you to win the scholarship and for them to award it to you because they already saw once before that you were a good candidate and that you were doing the things that they wanted you to ask. I actually had a scholarship that I renewed, and I still had to go through the same process again. I had to submit the application package all over again. I had to write a new essay, and they also asked me to just check in with them during the school year. Just a quick little email telling them how I'm doing, how the school is, and just updating them on my process. I did all of that. So when the next time it came around for me to do the interview, we just kind of sat back and we really just talked like friends. They asked me how college was. It wasn't an interview at all. It was just really a lot of us just talking, sharing our experiences. They gave me a lot of insight into what they were looking for. And they were asking me for my insight on why they weren't getting so many people to apply for the scholarships. So it was really interesting. It was a lot less pressured because they already knew me. They already trusted me and they already said that I was a great candidate for their scholarship. So continue to apply for more scholarships. The scholarship search does not end after high school or doesn't end after you submit one application or two applications. This is the process that you can repeat. You have a scholarship application now that you can submit and reuse for as many scholarships as you want. So don't waste all that time and effort that you spent putting into it. Maybe the first time you did an application, it took you 3 hours to complete, but the second application you do might take you 2 hours, and the third might take you one, and then each application after that might only take you 45 minutes or 30 minutes. So definitely keep applying for more and renew your scholarships. Now, do take action. I know you're going to get so tired of me saying this, but that's really the most important thing. If you don't take action, then you won't get any scholarship rewards or benefits. So, you have these scholarship applications that you picked out from knowing where to find the scholarships specifically for you. Now, start following those directions and filling them out. Apply all of the application dues that we just talked about. And up next, we're going to be working on the scholarship essay. So look out for that video.